versus Alabama Crimson Tide matchup. So, James, pretty epic weekend coming up. What do you think are going to be some of the keys to this game for both teams?
I think the keys for both teams are essentially going to reside on defense. And both teams have a very strong defense, so then therefore it's going to rely on the quarterback play. And most importantly, John Brantley has been unproven, as well as both of Alabama's quarterbacks at this point in time. It's obviously going to fall heavily on those guys to make a few plays. I think both defenses are going to step up. They're going to play against the run. They're going to put 8 and 9 men in the box, and that's going to wind up being a challenge for both of these quarterbacks. I think the one that plays the best will probably wind up earning a W.
So when I look at both of these teams, I see kind of similar teams. Both have two really great running backs. Both have really strong defenses. So for Florida, who do you think is going to need to step up outside of Demps and Rainey to kind of make some more plays?
Well, like we just discussed, John Brantley is going to step up, as well as the wide receiving crew. We've seen very little of the Florida Gator wide receivers. They've had very few catches. They've barely been featured in the offense. And I do believe Alabama is going to take away the running game. They're going to focus on taking away Demps and Rainey. They're going to make us beat them with the pass. At this point in time, no one in the country is really sure if we can do that. And it's going to be a big game for Brantley and the wide receiving crew to kind of prove to the country what they can do.
How important do you think the tight end is for Florida in this matchup?
I think it's very important. Jordan Reed's been injured, which has been a big question mark. He was supposed to be a guy that could really help out with kind of opening up that game. And I think especially the way Alabama plays a lot of cover 2 high defense. They play a lot of press coverage up with their corners. Having a tight end to work that middle of the field is going to be very important for the Gators to establish a presence early on to pull those linebackers back and away from the line of scrimmage to help with that run game. So that's going to be a very, very important thing to watch.
Now, when we look at these coaches, it's almost kind of like a clash of the titans and these great minds, with Saban being a great head coach and a great defensive mind, and then Weiss being a legendary offensive mind. Who comes out on top in that matchup?
I'm not exactly sure yet. That's a good one. It's gonna be a great match. Obviously, I think that Weiss has an opportunity to come out on top solely because he's got the home field advantage. He also has an opportunity to use those 2 running backs, essentially put them against linebackers in space. Whereas Nick Saban, the Gators haven't shown a lot of essentially personnel packages. They've run very few formations. Nick Saban's not necessarily sure what they might come out with. So the offense could have an advantage in this game. But Nick Saban, obviously a master game planner. It's going to be really interesting to see those two go head-to-head. It's going to be very reminiscent of a typical NFL playoff game where you have 2 very accomplished coordinators and coaches game planning for each other. So halftime adjustments will be a big, big key in this one as well.
So one of the big things that we've heard coming out of a lot of the press conference this week is this idea of Florida preparing for these opponents that are nameless and faceless, not necessarily saying, okay, here's the specific things that this team's going to bring, but we just need to worry about ourselves. How effective do you think that approach is?
I think that approach is very effective. I think with college kids especially, you want to control what you can control with them. You cannot control your opponent. You can only control your own preparation, how your team goes. So obviously offensively, you want to make sure you know what your plan is. In practice, you want to make sure you're executing what you think those various packages are going to be that will work against the defense you're facing. And then same thing on defense. What do they run? What do they run most often in certain situations? And you want to drill that, know, and be confident in your own ability to play rather than really getting too concerned with what your opponent is doing. You have limited preparation time, and the best way to maximize that is to focus on your own team. So I think that's a good strategy. I think it's very effective, and I think both teams actually take that approach, so we'll see which one holds out this Saturday.
How crazy do you expect the Swamp to get?
I hope the Swamp's going to be very crazy. This year it's been a little bit down. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of excitement. Tickets are obviously going for a very high number, but it's an 8 p.m. game. You can't ask for much less. You can't ask for much more. And as far as the Gators go, it's really one of the few teams that's beaten the Gators the past few times entering into the Swamp. It's definitely a huge rivalry. So I would hope that the crowd's going to be very, very excited for a game like this with lots and lots of noise, reminiscent of maybe an earlier day in the Swamp.
Yeah, I think the hype this week has definitely been through the roof, and so I'm expecting it to be pretty crazy, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So that's all we've got for you. I'm Amy Campbell here with James C. Virgilio, and we will talk to you soon.